started the Smart Meter Safety Coalition a little more than a year ago because
You're good.
because I really did not want a smart meter on my house, and that's how I got involved, because I do feel the effects of wireless, and I had gone to CMP and asked for a medical exemption, and not only did they say no, but they hired the same firm that had represented the tobacco industry and the asbestos industry to prove how safe smart meters were. So I thought, Smart Meter Safety Coalition, you can find us at smartmetersafety.com. We want people to have as much information as they can in order to make an informed decision. We're the only state so far, the only place in the world so far actually, that has the option to retain our existing analog meter. The best opt-out option is the electromechanical meter, which is the meter that you already have or you had before the smart meter was installed. CMP likes to compare smart meters to personal wireless devices like a Wi-Fi router or a cell phone. The reason why that's not accurate is because your cell phone is not engineered to transmit back and forth to everyone else's cell phone in the neighborhood, bouncing signals, boosting signals, piggybacking signals, which is what smart meters do. So the smart meters collect data, they transmit data, they're constantly going, they're chatting back and forth to establish this network. So your smart meter is not operating in a vacuum. And to say it's a blanket of radiation is really not an exaggeration. In order to fully utilize the smart meter and determine which appliance is using how much energy when, every single appliance you have, from your hairdryer to your washer dryer to your dishwasher to your refrigerator, is going to come equipped, if it isn't already, with its own wireless chip. So that wireless transmitter, and it's a transmitter, communicates with the smart meter on the outside of your house. So this is a home area network. And this is what CMP doesn't tell you, but Consumers Digest did a whole investigative report on this back in February, that this is what a smart meter really is. It's picking up transmissions from every single appliance, so your whole home is filled with layers and layers of this radiation in order for the smart meter to tell you which appliance is using how much energy when. This 15,000 transmissions a day, you may have heard or read where CMP says, oh, but they're only on for 45 seconds a day. So most people would think, oh, they're on for 45 seconds and then they're off for the rest of the day. But that 45 seconds is actually a hypothetical made up of 15,400 transmissions a day. So they're in microsecond bursts, and now we know that each burst is at least 100 times more powerful than a cell phone. FCC regulations protect us from getting burned. That's it. So no one's going to get burned from a smart meter, but that's of course not what we're worried about. And now that the World Health Organization has classified this specific type of radiation as a possible carcinogen, we think it's really wrong to have to pay to opt out of a possible carcinogen. So PUC is directed by law to provide safe equipment, safe facilities and equipment. But they've also said that they can't determine whether smart meters are safe. And even the Maine Centers for Disease Control has said they don't know that smart meters are safe. No one really knows. I mean, there's not been one study done on smart meters to determine whether they're safe or not. So really no one, I mean, we can say they're not safe, CMP can say they're safe, but no one knows.
I filed the 10-person complaint with the PUC as it pertains to health. Why? Because unfortunately, I am one of many who feel the physical effects of wireless technology. As I became aware of CMP's initiative to blanket Maine with the wireless smart meters, I wondered, where was the consideration for us who have greater sensitivity to the effects of EMF and radiation? Where was the discussion with the citizens about going the wireless route instead of hardwired?
In 2008, the Environmental Working Group reviewed all the studies available at that time and also concluded that our children are more vulnerable and at risk of adverse health effects from the type of radiation from smart meters due to their immature bodies. In 2000, Mobile Telecommunications and Health was commissioned by T-Mobile Telecom to review all the current scientific research to date up to 2000 and concluded there were serious adverse health effects that warranted precautionary health protection for everyone. Increases in incidence of childhood leukemia, Parkinson's, multiple sclerosis, Alzheimer's, diabetes, 30% decrease in sperm count and sperm cell damage, accumulating damage to the eyes, increases in toxins crossing the blood-brain barrier, cell DNA damage that can be passed down to the next generation. This past May 2011, the World Health Organization classified the type of radiation from smart meters as a possible carcinogen in the same category as DDT, dioxin, and lead. The WHO used the radio frequency from cell phones in their study to make this determination, but the determination also applies to any wireless device that uses radio frequency waves in the microwave frequency range, like cell phones and smart meters. In fact, in correspondence between the Maine CDC's state toxicologist, the state health officer, and the Maine Radiation Control Program, the CDC asked if the smart meters were similar to cell phones, and the Maine State Radiation Control Division answered yes, since the smart meters use the 2.4 gigahertz and the 5.8 gigahertz frequencies, similar and also at higher frequencies. It's perfectly reasonable and justified for people to conclude that there is a risk of harm to their health from the type of radiation emitted from smart meters.
And you leave that little wireless word way over to the side, and then, smart meters are going to do this for us, they're going to conserve energy, we're going to say this, it's everything good, and they leave the fact out that it's wireless now, or they might say it, one time in an article that's huge. When I found that out, I was like, wait a minute, they're going to basically put cell towers all over the place, because it's not just the meters on your house that are doing the 2.4 gigahertz like your cell phones, but they've got the collectors and stuff at 5.2 gigahertz, which is more powerful, and those are collecting all of this information. So CMP is going to be using your house to collect people's data and send it, and that's a new thing. CMP has an easement to your house to provide power to your house, but they don't have a right to use your house for business purposes, in my opinion. Because some of them already are wireless, the smart meters are interfering with them, and they are, with medical devices, the medical community is supposed to prevent, they're required to prevent interference, to work towards, the manufacturers have to. But the manufacturer's smart meters don't have any requirements on them. They don't have to conform to any code at state, local, or federal, or national, any code. But are they being tested by third-party, impartial people? No, they're not, because they're not required. A guy in Cape Elizabeth is a software designer. He worked at home. He opted out, does not have a meter on his house, and he gets disconnected off of his internet 6 times a day. And I have to say, a woman in South Portland who signed one of the interference complaint, her washing machine blew, and they did attribute it to the smart meter. And CMP came over, her own electrician came over, CMP brought an electrician, and they attributed it to the smart meter, but they couldn't figure out. They were trying to blame it on the wiring, because sometimes old wiring cannot handle these new types of things. They couldn't figure that, her wiring wasn't that old. They couldn't figure it out. The fact is, they paid her $400 for a new washer dryer. The one I opt out right here, they're saying they might need a repeater over here that might cost $150,000 or $200,000 or whatever. The confidential information that I can't share with you is how many meters that they said that they needed, how that all developed, how that was all worked out, Believe me, we fought, and I continued during my complaint for reconsideration, because I had fought from the get-go prior to any confidential discussions that they are way overestimating it, and they have no clue, and we should not have to pay for them at all. And believe me, if that information were out, the cost of opt-outs for the meter readers would be quite small, like as in $5 a month or $2 a month. So in other words, this cost for the repeaters that nobody knows about, that is confidential, it is what the opt-out. Electricity is purchased at different times of the day, varies in price. You can get it cheaper one time, higher. And basically what this is going to do is enable CMP to use what's called time of use pricing, which means that you are going to be able to choose if you want to go on to time of use, or maybe it'll become mandatory sometime, which means that you'll be paying for electricity different times, different usage. So if you use all your electricity at midnight, your bill's going to be way low. They're convinced that that's going to change people's behavior so that they will cook at midnight and not. What the studies have shown, however, the pilot studies have shown that people have changed their habits for about 3 months, and then boom, it's like, we all live busy lives. We have to eat at a certain time. We got to put our kids to bed. We're watching the news. We go to work. But it also is supposed to enable. This is supposed to enable the smart cars and the plug-in vehicles and that sort of thing. And then, sort of part 2 of your question was, what's the advantage to CMP? They say that they can quickly figure out who's out of power, so they can restore your power quicker. But the kind of data that they're going to get is much more detailed than they need for that. All they need to know is whether your power is on or off. There's a certain amount of bandwidth with each meter that CMP is going to have, and these are unlicensed bandwidth. And seriously, CMP could become a cellular company as well. And they could be using your house to transmit signals. Now, when I asked in a conference specifically at a table across from them, was that their intention, the response I got was, well, that's not our intention. This technology is going to enable all kinds of different things. And because it's 2.4 gigahertz, and because you've got this opportunity to transmit data back and forth. I mean, that's one of the reasons Diane's appeal to the Supreme Court was really about this whole idea of CMP doesn't have a right to use your home for a business. And I don't believe that either. So this is another reason. The data collection, protection, privacy, and constitutional rights issue is another reason to opt out. Right now there's no laws that protect your data from third-party vendors. So in other words, CMP has a policy, or the PUC has a policy, they won't share your information with anyone. But the third-party accounting firm that gets some of this information, they aren't regulated by any of those policies because they're a third party. Basically, if all your appliances are working when you're home, when you're on vacation, whether you use a medical device, if it's a sleep apnea machine, they'll have a vivid profile of your daily living habits. This is called consumer profiling, and this is taken from an industry diagram, the National Institute of Standards and Technology, and you can see they will know when you're using your kettle, toaster, kettle bob. This is already, people are shocked when they see this, but they will be able to tell all of these things. And that's really a violation, in our opinion, of people's privacy. Who wants that information? Well, marketers want that information, insurance companies want that information. The Fifth Amendment of the U.S. Constitution says that property cannot be taken for public use without just compensation and due process. And that's one of the amendments that we believe is being violated here. And I believe that this whole smart grid is going to actually increase the use of energy.
I don't think we've mentioned that the data is going from one house to another. It's going all down the line. So if you're house number 10 and you're at number 1, all that data is being collected and then sent to you.
And then I think we already mentioned the fires really have to do with old or unshielded cables, and there was a fire at El Rayo Taquero in Portland actually by faulty installation because the installation folks aren't very well trained either. Maine is the largest geographical area that's using these wireless smart meters, and Maine's the only one using 2.4 gigahertz. They're using 900 gigahertz over in California.